Hello, this is another brand new series on core tutorials, and in this series we're going to be creating a 2D platformer all the way through. Enemies, players, power-ups if we can get there in time, and kind of everything else, and everything in between. I don't do much 2D, so this is going to be as much as kind of what I remember, an experiment for myself as it will be for you guys if you've never done this before. Okay, so as you've seen in previous tutorials, I have kind of my scene view here and my game tab here. And these setups, this is just a standard kind of Unity setup now. This is a custom one, but it's really good to be able to see your scene and your game so you can see what's fitting in and what's not working within your game view, especially with what we're doing today. And what we're looking at today is tile maps. So we're going to be creating the terrain, the environment, as well as some foreground and background assets for your game as well. So what I've done is I've gone to itch.io and found some free game assets, downloaded those, and I'm going to just quickly drag them into my assets folder here. So let's just see if we can find that. I think it's my downloads. There we go. Magic Cliffs environment. Just drag that into there like that. So that's free on itch.io. I don't think that means anything. There we go. Everything's there. Fantastic. So download some free 2D game assets, and then you can follow along with me. And that's probably the best thing. And there are other tutorials on how to create sort of your own pixelated art and stuff in Photoshop and stuff like that. But I'm trying to work at the moment with as much free stuff as possible. So Unity is free to download. The assets on itch.io are free to download. So everything can be followed along to the exact point if needs be. So if I went into Photoshop and stuff like that, that is a pay monthly thing. So I'm not really hitting that up too much. I know I have tutorials previously on that, but I've kind of stayed away from that. So if you are in education or you are learning, every kind of asset and all kind of software, including Unity, is free for you to use and utilize. Okay. So as I said, today we're looking at tile maps for this brand new series on creating a 2D platformer. So anything from Mario to early Metroid to anything like that. And we'll just go with the flow, see what we can find with free assets, and see if we can make a game out of totally free assets we just find online. Okay, so what we're going to start off first is with our tile palette. So we need to find that. What we need to do is go up to Window, 2D, and then you can see Tile Palette just there. So I'm going to click onto that, and that will pop up as a little sort of tab here. And what I'm going to try and do is attach that to there, just like that. Zoom out a little bit for that, so I can still see my game view. Bring this all in a little bit. So I've got more of a view. My hierarchy and folders don't need to be that wide. Okay, awesome. Okay, so the next most important thing when we're creating 2D assets with loads of different sprites and elements is file management. It's important in 3D as well to name everything, but even more important in 2D, as everything has, you've got palettes, you've got tiles, you've got then your tile maps, and all loads of different save folders as well as sprites. So what we're going to do first, saying sprites, is we're going to right click, create a new folder, and call this sprites. Cool, fantastic. And we'll leave that for now. I'm happy with that. So we've got a palettes folder. Good stuff. So first thing we're going to do is get a grid going on here. So a tile map or tile grid is something that we can add to and paint to. So what we're going to do in hierarchy, we're going to right click, go to 2D game object, and go to tile map, as you can see there. So straight away, grid has been added. If we click on that, we can see that our game is automatically gridded. We can click that off, click off that, click onto it. So as you can see, something is parented to grid, which is our first tile map. So what we're going to call this is just call this just land underscore tile map for like our terrain. Actually, I'm going to call it terrain. That sounds a lot better, doesn't it? Terrain underscore tile map. Press enter, and then that will rename there. Cool. And as you can see, tile palette has already noticed that our active new tile map is new terrain underscore tile map, and we'll have lots of different tile maps going on. So we need to make sure that we name each and every single layer as soon as we add it. Okay. Cool. Okay. So now we've done that. We need to make sure we've dragged our assets in. That's good. We've got our tile map in there. We've renamed tile map. Let's create a brand new palette. Okay, so on our tile palette, it will say create a new palette. Go away and we'll name this palette terrain. Cool. And when we click create, it's going to want to save. So what we're going to do in sprites, I'm going to create a new folder. Call this palettes. Or actually we could do one called tile maps, create, and then in tile maps we'll create a new folder and call this palettes, create. So already we're creating a lot of files and systems here, but at the end of the day, it will keep it all lovely and organized. Okay, so once we have created that, and created all our folders for it, we're going to find our 2D assets. So if I go into the assets that I dragged in, go into PNG, I'll find something called tile set, and I'll just drag this out for a second so you can see it. And essentially we can see here that we've got all of these different assets that we can use and utilize for our essentially for our game. But as you can see, it's just one single file. That's it. It's just one tile set. So we need to break this up and cut some little bits down. So what we're going to do is, if you click onto it, click on your tile set, under sprite mode in the inspector where it says single, well, we want to be able to cut this up. So we're going to go to multiple, click apply, and then as soon as we've done that, we're going to click on Sprite Editor, and Sprite Editor will open up this separate little window. We don't need to attach this anywhere. You can if you want, but we're not going to be in here for too long. We can zoom in, and there we go. You can see all our lovely assets along here. Cool. So what I'm going to do is, if we click onto slice, go to type. At the moment, it's automatic. So whether you created these assets, downloaded them, there should be a size for these assets. So when I downloaded these assets, the maker of the said assets said they are to a cell size of 16 by 16 pixels. Okay. So what I need to make sure is that they fit into a 16 by 16 pixels. Otherwise, there could be overhang. There could be all different types of different bits of trouble, little bits of gaps and things like that to do with the assets themselves. And we don't want these little gaps between our pixels. That is not good. So what we're going to do is, onto type where it says automatic, we're going to click that and go to grid by cell size. There, as you can see, it says pixel size 64 by 64. I'm not going to trust that. I'm going to go with what the maker said and change this to 16 by 16. And then once I'm happy with that, I'm going to click slice. And what you can see has happened here is that Unity has cut these, found where the asset says, all the checkered bit is background. So it's ignoring that because it's essentially, that's transparent. And it's cut out all of these different little assets. Once we've done that and we're happy with that, what we can do is click apply. So let's click apply again. There we go. Fantastic. And there we go, tile set underscore 0, 16 by 16 in position, width and height even size wise. So we can get rid of that. And now if we go back to tile set and click, you can see that it's created all these individual tiles for us, which is awesome. Okay, so before we rush ahead and drag all of them in there and everything like that, what we need to do is on tile set in the inspector, we can see pixels per unit are 100. Well, we know that's not true. Pixels per unit is actually 16 by 16. So if we type in 16, click apply, that will set that to 16 by 16 pixels. Great. Okay, so once we've done that, we're now going to click and drag this whole tile set into our tile palette, just like so, like that. There we go. Okay, so it's asking us to save this. So again, I'm going to go to Sprite. I'm going to go to Tilemaps. I've got palettes. So what I'm going to do is create another folder for Tilemaps. Call this tiles. Click create. Then in tiles, create another folder and call this terrain. Click create, and then all my tiles are going to go in here. Click choose, and everything is going to generate and go into there. I know we're creating a lot of folders, but this is really beneficial to having organized files, organized palettes, then organized tiles within your sprites and then within your tile maps. So I know it seems like I'm maybe creating unnecessary folder systems, but everything has its place kind of thing, and this will work for you overall. You won't lose anything either, which is always really, really handy. So that's created a fair amount of tile sets, because as you can see, Unity is loading through them. We're at 380 now. Out of 464, nearly there. Lovely, done. So now within our tile palettes, we can actually see that we have these tiles. So if you think we can zoom into our tile palettes, but we can't move left or right, what you can do is hold Alt or Option on your keyboard, and then we can hold that and click and drag along. So let's start to create and actually paint some terrain. Shock horror. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, if we want to paint something, I'm going to go up to here, and where it says paint with active brush, so I'm going to click that brush, and as you can see, I can choose these 16 by 16 pixels, but what's not very helpful is that I can only choose one. But you can do more than that. So what I'm going to do is actually click and drag all of those pixels, and when I go onto my terrain, you can see, this is why we have the game view at the same time as well, I can actually create and paint. If I click on, click on, click on, click on, and keep going like that, just to create a very, very basic terrain, just like that. You can go outside. So this box here, don't worry about if you go beyond this box. This is just our camera view. All of this, we can paint all of this if we so be, as you can see just there. Also, if you go wrong, we can also go up to our tile palette, as you can see, erase. So make sure we clicked onto that and then erase, just like that. So click back onto our paint. I'm going to click on, that looks quite good, so I'm going to click and drag over there. We can add some rocks there, we can add some rocks there, and I'm going to go here and choose this one, choose one there, and then the rest I think I'm just going to choose like a black, if I can find one, just a black. Oh yeah, this looks pretty good. So what I can do is take that and paint the rest in. There we go, fantastic. Okay, so what you might be able to see is within my game view, we have these lines. So if this happens to you, do not worry, it's fine. What we're going to do is go back to grid, and we can see that cell size is X is 1 and Y is 1. What I'm going to do is slightly change that by 0.97, and as you can see, that gets rid of the X, and 0.97, that gets rid of the Y. So it's just expanding of what's happening within each of those, or reducing what's happening in each of those cell blocks. Okay, so now we have it looks completely and utterly seamless. What I'm going to do is go back onto here and just paint these odd bits out at the bottom. Lovely, there we go, and there's the start of our terrain. Okay, so what we're going to do is we are going to create like a chasm or a bit of a cliff. So when our player starts, the first kind of basic thing he can do is jump over a little bit of a cliff. So what I'm going to do is grab all this cliff side here. Yeah, let's just grab. We could maybe grab to there. See how that looks. That looks good. Click that in. Fantastic. I'm then gonna search for another end. Oh, that looks good. And then add that to there. Then what I can do is simply go to my eraser tool, and actually if that's a bit too big I can just choose a block like that and we can delete. Oh, I'm not on eraser, that's why. Come on in, eraser. There we go. Fantastic. So in just a short couple of steps, I know that doesn't not blending in quite well here, but you can see the kind of idea that we're creating with our 2D palettes and our tile palettes. So if I wanted to create a background, what I'm going to quickly do before I run out of time is click on grid, right click and go 2D object and tile map, and that will put another tile map under my terrain underscore tile map. I'm going to quickly name this sky, or you can name it background. I just think that may be more appropriate. Background tile map. And what I'm going to do is click on this, and again repeat that process of what I've done before with my original tile set. Go to multiple, click apply, Sprite Editor, slice, type 16:16, slice that, beautiful. Click off that, click apply, there we go, get rid of that. Then I'm going to go up to where it says terrain. I'm going to click there, create a brand new palette, call this background. Click create. This will want to save. I'm going to save this. This is a brand new palette, so I'm going to save this in sprites, tile maps, palettes, and I'm just going to save that in there. Choose. Lovely. Make sure when I've clicked on sky and it's broken up into bits that pixels per unit is 16. Click enter, click apply. Then what I can do is drag in my sky tile map, and it asks me to save that, so I'm going to put that into tile maps, tiles, got terrain. This one I'm going to call sky. Click create, choose. They will pop along in there. Lovely stuff. And what I can do is click my paint and choose that. That looks pretty good. Fair old block. So what you're going to see me do now is I'm going to paint, 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 and paint. But you're going to think, hang on a minute, what am I doing? I've totally covered what I've just painted on. And you're totally right, I have. But my active tile tile map is my background tile map. And what we need to consider now is layering. So I'm going to get rid of this quickly because it's annoying me. So if I click on my terrain, where I've originally done my ground and my chasm, you can see that in order of layer, that's layer 0. I'm going to change this to 1, and there we go, it pops up straight away. Okay, so if you ever get trapped with this, do not worry. What you can do is, and then if we click on background, background is default to 0. So the higher the number, the more that the more of the layer will be brought to the front. Okay, so higher the number, the more to the front the layer will be. Okay, so what I'm going to do is stop the video there, download some assets, create lots of different tile maps within the grid. What we'll look at next is probably adding some maybe more terrain and stuff like that, and trees and some vegetation and things like that. But again, it should be very self-explanatory of how to do that. And then we'll start looking at animated tile maps and animated objects within your 2D scene. Okay, cool. Thank you very much. See you soon.